Welcome to the Nutmeg Tavern. Welcome everyone to the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live, and it is Halloween. So let us begin the Halloween episode. We can all get together, cozy around the fire, and a warm drink. Warm it however you like. I have a wonderful blueberry tea here, and nutmeg just sets it right off. Welcome into this live stream. We are going to be discussing some 18th century, 17th century, 19th century scary stuff specifically for this Halloween. Now, Halloween was not necessarily a very big thing in the 18th century. Maybe it really wasn't kind of a thing at all, but it is today, and they did have some kind of scary-ish stories, and maybe not so much as you might want to think, but you know what, I'm not convinced totally. You know, I'm learning stuff every day, and you know, I just ran into something today that we're going to be reading from towards in the middle section that has to do with ghosts and spirits and apparitions and specters and such like. But I thought we would begin with a classic reading here. If I can find it. Yes, there it is. That is The Raven, because it is such a monumental piece. Poe was incredible. Yes, he's not 18th century, but he's working from some of those kinds of feelings, that whole Gothic genre was started in the 18th century, and we are going to run with that. So here we go. Here is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, "tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, and uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, too still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. It is this and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "maiden, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came a rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wandering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, 'Lenore?' This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, 'Lenore.' Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. 'Surely,' said I, 'surely this is something at my window lattice. Let me see then. what the threat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in their step the stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, said I, art sure no craven, ghastly grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely in that placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have shone before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of the bird and the bust in the door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore? Desolate yet, all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels named Lenore? Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels named Lenore? Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out of my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out of that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Da-da-da-da, yes. Ooh, such an incredible poem there. If only I had the talent to write such scary things. Do we have any input from?
Yes, let me grab, hold on. Okay, so there's a super chat from Mike Howell. Happy Halloween, Townsends, from my wife and I on our honeymoon on the beach. What a great choice. What a great place to be.
This is a hard thing. It's like live stream on the beach, Halloween, honeymoon. Okay, we got some things that are difficult there.
And here's a super chat, just a donation from the Waits, I think, Experience. And then somebody had a question. Do you know, did they have any Bigfoot stories in the 18th century, or are those a little more modern?
Maybe there's some Wendigos and things like that, depending on the culture. But I don't know. It's a good question.
I don't remember ever reading something I would specifically. I've never run across.
I think there's some cryptozoology there.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know if there's any big shaggy men.
Okay. What's our next story? Is it one of the Defoe ones?
Yeah. Let's we've got this very interesting Jack O' the Lantern story, and we're going to try to do that at the break after the half hour. That's specifically, again, 19th century, but this is a set of stories this is actually Defoe. It's something else. At least I had a hard time locking this down. This is from 1762. The History of Apparitions, Ghosts, and Spirits or Specters, consisting of a variety of remarkable stories of apparitions attested by people of undoubted veracity. I won't name them, but really, I trust them totally. And it's by a clergyman, which, of course, you can never trust any of these by whatever. But here we go. And some of the first ones were kind of long and whatever. But here's the quote at the beginning of it. Addison, stories of ghosts and apparitions deserve to be taken notice of, as they contain a most certain proof of the immortality of the soul. Okay? So I jumped into this section of story number 3, which is not terribly long. A soldier in Colonel Venerable's regiment that came out of Ireland looked melancholy and pined, and grew so pale and thin that he was worn almost to a skeleton. His officer, thinking the poor fellow might have some cause for grief which might be in his power to remove, kindly urged him to declare what it was that made him so wretched. And at last the soldier, unable longer to endure the racking torments of his own mind, made a confession to his captain, that he formerly had been a servant to a man that carried about stockings and such ware to sell, and that for his money he had murdered his master, and buried him in such and such a place, that he immediately fled into Ireland and enlisted himself for a soldier, and that he never enjoyed any happy hours, but particularly from the time that he landed in England, that he had every night been haunted with the ghost of his master, who said to him, "Wilt thou not yet confess thy wicked murder?" He added that he was now glad to suffer death at once, in order to avoid the lingering punishment of wasting by degrees under excessive tortures. He afterwards made a proper confession before a magistrate. The body was searched for and found, and the man was hanged in chains where the murder was committed. So, somebody who was haunted until he confessed. Another story. A traveler was found murdered near Itzhau in Denmark. And because the murder was unknown, the magistrates caused the hand of the slain to be cut off and hung up by a string to the top of a room in the town prison. So this is the hand of the person who was killed, right? 10 years after, the murderer came into that room, having been taken up for some very slight offense, and the hand immediately began to drop blood upon the table that stood beneath it. The jailer on that accused the prisoner with the murder, who, struck with the apparent judgment of God in the discovery of it, confessed the fact and submitted to the punishment so justly due his crime.
They hung up a gross dead hand for 10 years?
Right. I mean, anyway.
Ew.
So I don't know, we call that the story of the haunted hand, maybe. Right? And this one is a little bit longer, but I think it's really good. In the northern part of England, I think in Lancaster, for I had this story from a clergyman of that country. The minister, before he began to read prayers at church, saw a paper lying in his book, which he supposed to be the banns of some marriage. So we talked about the idea of, basically an announcement. He opened it and saw written in a fair and distinct hand words to the following purpose: that John P. and James D. had murdered a traveling man, had robbed him of his effects, and buried him in such an orchard. The minister was extremely startled and asked his clerk hastily if he had placed any paper in the prayer book. The clerk declared that he had not, but the minister prudently concealed the contents of the paper, for the two names therein contained those that were of the clerk and the sexton of the church. Weird. The minister then went directly to a magistrate and told him what had happened, and took the paper out of his pocket to read it. When, to his great surprise, nothing appeared thereon, but it was a blank piece of white paper. The justice on that accused the minister of whim and fancy and said that his head must certainly have been distempered when he imagined such strange contents to be on a blank piece of paper. The good clergyman plainly saw the hand of God in this matter, and by earnest entreaties prevailed on the justice to grant his warrant against the clerk and the sexton, who were taken up on suspicion, and separately confined and examined. When so many contradictions appeared in their examination, for the sexton who kept an alehouse owned the having lodged such a man at his house, and the clerk said that he was that evening at the sexton's, but no such man was there, that it was thought proper to search their houses, in which there was found several pieces of gold and some goods belonging to men that traveled that country. Yet they gave so tolerable account of those that no positive proof could be made out, till the clergyman, recollecting that the paper mentioned the dead body to be buried in such an orchard, a circumstance which had been before slipped his memory, the place was searched, the body was found, and on hearing which the sexton confessed the fact, accusing the clerk as his accomplice, and they were both accordingly executed. The ghostly piece of paper. So, very, 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 very interesting. And I was really, all very similar stories, about justice and I guess, a lot of ghost stories are like that. It's like ghosts come back in a way to, try to fix whatever the thing was. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And that idea that, especially in that, wasn't it two of them that they were traveling people? Yeah. Traveling salesmen, right?
Yes.
One of them was the sock seller, right? And that was, if you're going to get murdered in colonial America, your chances are that you're a traveling salesman of some type. Those were the people that were most likely to be the victim of crime because they were outsiders and they were probably traveling with goods or money. So very, very interesting that they kind of all tie up. It's like, don't be a traveling salesman.
Very dangerous.
In the 18th century, very dangerous. If you're going to do it, you better do it in a group and you better be ready to defend yourself.
Okay, so I've got a couple super chats here. This first one is from Speed and Style Tony. Opening my box from Townsend's just now, samples of the new tea plus some Christmas gifts. Yeah, you should try the blueberry. We were musing which tea to make this afternoon, and the blueberry really jumped to.
Did Sydney try it?
I think she went with the raspberry, but.
Oh, that's right. She wanted something uncaffeinated.
Well, we almost made the blueberry. And then this next one is Townsend. Are you familiar with the tale of the devil at Dancing Point in Charles City, County, Virginia?
I am not.
I've never heard of it.
I am not.
I'll make a note so we can look it up later. You want to tell people about the new
yes.
stuff?
Everything is slipping my mind. So there are some new products that's specifically kind of merch products. If you're interested and you want something, maybe you want to give something Nutmeg Tavern to somebody for Christmas or to yourself for Christmas. We do have new mugs, so you can just not really see them here. This one's, what's it called? Brick and something?
That one's
stone?
Brick and Stone.
Brick and Stone. So it's this cool kind of brick cut. Obviously, you can't really see it very well in this light, but we'll show you pictures. This fun little creamer that has, let's see, this one's got the Stag Holiday Nutmeg Tavern thing on it. This has got the standard Nutmeg Tavern bore on it, and it's a little creamer guy. It doesn't have a handle. You just, good. Very interesting. We haven't had these guys, ramekins, before. So fun. You can make these little, maybe you want to make a a little pumpkin pie, and it would be really great. And is that like the brick color?
Yes.
Right. And then this very midnight, slight tinge of blue, black with the stone kind of color on it. Again with the stag design on it. And we also have these super cool T-shirts that are available. And here, let's see the pictures real quick. Look at that. Woo! I thought, I wear T-shirts underneath sweaters in the wintertime, and I like to have long sleeve T-shirts. So I'm a fan of that. So we have long sleeve T-shirts this winter. Cool Nutmeg Tavern black with the red, the regular Nutmeg Tavern with the kind of yellow tan on green, and then the fun Nutmeg Tavern with the holiday stag on it in more of a, I don't know what you would call it, a V-neck cut with a more specifically, I don't know.
I picked this one out for women specifically.
Right.
We never had one cut specifically for women,
Right.
so that's what the navy and stag is. I figured we were doing a stag,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
we give it a little bit of a mix.
All different designs, different colors, and shirt styles that are different than before. And I'm just they did a great job on those, and everybody loves the dragon one.
Yeah, that one is really the one that's catching everyone's eye, is the dragon.
Good. And we got some bigger sizes this time.
I added in some 4Xs. I don't have a ton of 4Xs, but there are a little bit
Right.
in the boar and in the dragon.
You got pictures on the mugs, right? Are they there? Yeah, look at that. There's the ramekin. You can see a little better. And then the little. I made sure to get a hand in that picture for the creamer, because it can look huge and it's not. It's just a little guy. And there are the mugs there. Just excellent, beautiful pieces. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check those out. And you can find links right below. Is there some in the description also, or in the chat, right?
I'll add them in.
And of
yes.
course now there's this new cool, you can find them right there at the bottom on the YouTube screen, and fun stuff there. Did you have something to say? Was somebody chatting
okay,
there?
so their comment is, how can they afford to hire all these supermodels for the catalog?
Well, that's true. We do, cheapest models we can find. We do really work hard at getting the nicest looking models possible. I was going to have AI do it, but I just thought we would look better. Every week I try to get to the brand new and renewing YouTube members and Patreon. So, and this is pretty kind of small, so I'm going to move this out a little bit. Titan as a member. He must be really big. Jay Sanders, Alexander Belinsky, and then David Collar, thank you. Cheeseburger Stick, James Coffrin, something like that. Rob Johnson, Imperial History 91, Valerie L, and then super long time super members. We need to have a new category. Super members. Anyway, Speed and Style Tony, Aaron, John Mayo, Max Arcool, Drenay65, and John Kennington. And then brand new Patreon folks, Calvin Kelly, Beej, and Justin Hughes. So all of you folks, a super mega, if you can even do that, thank you here from the Nutmeg Tavern and from Townsend's. Thank you for your wonderful support. Okay. What else do we got? Are we ready for this one?
One more.
Okay.
I've got a super chat from Sharon L. I just got a new patio installed, and the first thing I had to do was sit outside with my Townsend lantern. Cold outside in the Northeast, but worth it.
Yes. That's poor timing for a brand new patio.
But nothing more autumnal than sitting outside with your Townsend's lantern.
Very true. Very true.
And I don't know, sometimes you're like, the summer is when you want a patio, but if you do it in the summer, that's not the best time for construction. So it'll be perfect. Waiting for the springtime to enjoy.
Yes. So this is from the Dublin Penny Journal in 1836, and it is a what would you call it? A origin story, right? For Jacko the Lantern. Now, we know that like carving pumpkins and other vegetables. I don't even know what the weird, like, I don't know, what were they carving? Beets or rutabagas or something? I don't know, whatever. Carving vegetables and putting candles in them is this old tradition. But this is a different kind of a origin story. I don't know how far it goes back or any of that good stuff. But it's a story, and it's fun, right? Jacko the Lantern. It starts off, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Of course, Shakespeare. My uncle, kind, generous soul, was deeply imbued with superstition. I roundly assert that his lore was not derived from books. He had a sovereign contempt for the Newtonian philosophy, laughed to scorn the manner in which the learned account for a great deal of what is called natural phenomena, could show you with half an eye the man who was translated into the exalted sphere of the moon for stealing a bush from his gossip's fence, but totally denied the existence of any other living being in that planet, and could describe there none, or describe, I'm not sure.
Descry, so he couldn't see.
Descry. There none of the seas and mountains which all astronomers so easily perceive. In short, he declared it to be as dangerous to follow these lights of learning in their aerial voyages of discovery as to pursue that misguided traveler Jacko the Lantern in his devious excursions through the faithless mazes of an Irish shaking bog. Now we're talking about this idea of a will-o'-the-wisp, a faint light that goes hither and thither and leads people into dangerous places, right? That's what
right.
he's
You usually
referring to.
see him around the marshes and the bogs.
Right. Says, I was his special favorite. The tales and legends of my beloved country still possess a charm for me, which neither time nor misfortune can diminish. One night in October, returning home together, we found ourselves on the border of a mountain stream which afforded an outlet to the waters of a deep morass that extended from a considerable distance to its very edge. When that meteoric light, which the learned denominate ignis fatuus, but which in vulgar parlance is called Jacko the Lantern, suddenly started before us. My uncle stopped, and eyeing the irregular motions of the strange light that glided around us, said, "Well, my boy, I don't think you would ever again tempt me to pursue you, but however, as I'm growing stiff in the limbs, we'll take the easy way of getting rid of your tricks. Eh, Mon?" Meaning myself. "Off with your coat and turn it inside out, or as sure as you're living, the chap yonder will give us a cold bath in the next bog hole." Then, suiting the action to his work, he deliberately took off his coat and breeches and turned them inside out and slipped into them again. It's all right, I got it. Hardly had I done the same when the wandering light, after a few curves along the stream, dashed into a small glen that opened into the brook and finally disappeared. As we strode homeward, my uncle said, "Now wouldn't ye give your uncle a specimen of your learning and tell us what the books you read say about Jacko the Lantern?" "Why, uncle, the ignis fatuus is only a harmless light, a gaseous vapor arising from putrid vegetable bodies, which, ignited by the damps of the night, wanders on in brightness till the inflammable air is consumed." Marsh gas. Aemon, your words have bothered me my entirety. Those natural full of, what do you call them, have filled your head with nonsense. Aemon, if you knew the sufferings of that forsaken creature, still the time the poor soul was doomed to wander with a lantern in his hand and on this cold earth without the rest of his foot or shelter for his head until the day of judgment. Oh, it would soften the heart of stone to see him as I once did the poor old Dunaln, his feet blistered and bleeding, his ponines, wretched garments, all flying about him, and the winds of heaven beating on his old white head. I was coming home one night, when up started the light before me on this very spot 20 years ago. I knew if I tried to get homeward, that treacherous lantern would lead me through all the bogs and cogs of the place, for the night was pitchy dark, and the roar of the mountain streams as they dashed through their rocky beds sounded deep and lonely. Says I, Mobakal, I'll run no risks in striving to avoid ye, but I'll hunt you down fairly, for you see, if I shun him, he'll follow ye, but if you pursue him, he'll cut away. And I dashed towards him. Well, he runs over hill and valley, and I stuck to him like a shadow. At length, as I reached the bank of the rapid river, I saw him by the light of his own lantern, hiding on the very edge of the water under a bush. As I dashed like a greyhound towards him, his eyes seemed riveted on me in wild terror. His face was frightful to look at. His white beard and whiter hair streamed in the rough blast. The next step would have brought me straight upon him, but at that instant the rooster crowed, giving notice of day, and the lantern went out, and the poor crathur that carried it disappeared, and I was left in pitchy darkness. As we journeyed homeward, I introduced various topics to my companion's sanity to test, which he displayed his usual acuteness upon every subject, save that of the sprite, whose lot the reader has heard him so feelingly deplore. Upon this point he was impregnable to any and all arguments, and I gave up the struggle. The next day he favored me with the history of Jacko the Lantern, which I wrote down at leisure. And here is the legend of Jacko the Lantern. Once upon a time there lived a man whose natural disposition was churlish and morose, and the asperities of whose soul had not been softened down by the knowledge of God. And his acquirements in the things of this world did not much exceed the narrow skill which enabled him to cultivate the farm on which he lived. He was known throughout the country for his unsocial manners. His blazing hearth never cheered the wayworn stranger, and the repulsed beggar never again sought his inhospitable door. Jack, for so this churl was named, was returning home one night as he approached a dark and rapid stream at a particular ford, when he heard a groan that, to his fancy, proceeded from some tortured spirit. He suddenly drew in the mare on which he rode, and as a second or third sound of agony smote his ears, his bristling hair stood erect, the cold beads of dismay oozed at every pore, nor did the whiskey which he quaffed that evening prevent the current of his blood from freezing at his very heart. But when the horrid sounds were again repeated, he summoned nerve sufficient to inquire what he could do for the tortured soul that crossed his path. "For the love of heaven," said the voice, "take me to some human habitation, for I am not tortured spirit, but a poor homeless wanderer who has lost my way on the wild moor and have laid down here to die. For I dare not cross this rapid stream, so may mercy be shown you in your hour of need and in the day of your distress." Delivered from supernatural terrors, the peasant's soul softened into humanity. With an indescribable feeling of pity which never till that hour reached his heart, he dismounted and saw extended on the ground on the damp earth a very aged man with a white beard, who was evidently borne down with the load of years and misery. He wrapped the aged sufferer in his warm greatcoat, placed him on the saddle, and then, mounting on the crupper, he supported the object of his pity till he reached home. His wife smiled to behold her gruff husband engaged in the unusual office of hospitality, and wondered much what charm could have soothed his unsocial soul to kindness. The miserable stranger received every necessary that her cupboard afforded, and was lain to rest in a warm bed. And in a short time his grief and infirmities were forgotten in sound repose. After the dawn of the day, Jack was awakened from his sleep by a bright blaze of light that shone through all the cabin. Unable to account for this sudden illumination, he started to his feet from the bed, when his progress was instantly checked, and his astonishment greatly augmented, to behold a young man of celestial beauty, wrapped in white garments. His shoulders were furnished with wings, the plumage of which exceeded in whiteness the down of swans, and as he spoke, the words stole like notes of a heavenly harp to the soul of the wandering cottager. "Mortal," says the celestial visitant, "I am one of the angels commissioned to watch over the sons of Adam. I heard thy brethren exclaim against thy unsocial temper and utter disregard for the sacred virtue of hospitality. But I find that some generous seeds of virtue have lain uncultivated with thee. In me thou beholdest the miserable senior whom thy generous humanity relieved. I have shared thy frugal fare and lowly bed. My blessings shall remain on thy house, but to thyself in particular I bestow 3 wishes. Then freely ask, as I shall freely give. May wisdom bound the desire of thy soul." Catch that last sentence there. I'll just kind of, hone in on that. May wisdom bound the desire of thy soul. Well, Jack paused for a moment and then said, "There's a sycamore tree before the door, fair and wide-spreading, but every passer-by must pluck a bough from it. Grant that every one touching it with such intent may cling to the tree till I release him." Okay. "Secondly, I do wish that any person who sits in my elbow chair may ever be able to leave it, nor the chair to leave the ground without my consent." Okay. "There's a wooden box on the wall." I like this one. "There's a wooden box on the wall, and I keep it to hold the thread and awls and the hammer with which I mend my brogues," shoes. "But the moment I turn my back, every clown comes in here cobbling for himself. My third request is that the person who puts his hand into the box may stick to the wall. Daring my pleasure, my wishes are ended." Those are your 3 wishes, right? Anyway.
The last one is the only one that makes sense to me.
Because they would never put the tools back. You
Yeah,
just
well,
know it.
Yeah.
And then they cut paper with your sewing scissors.
There's a scary story for you.
No! The angel sighed as he granted the boon. And the legend further adds that Jack was from that hour excluded from all hope of heaven, because he had eternal happiness within his wish and neglected to secure the vast gift. But the angel's blessing remained on his house, his children were many, and his crops and his cattle throve with large increase. But Jack isn't getting into heaven because he's not smart. In 20 years after, As Jack sat one evening in his elbow chair, musing on his earthly affairs, a strange and unearthly smell of brimstone assailed his nose, and when he turned around to ascertain the cause, the appearance of a tall and dark-looking being, graced with a pair of horns and cloven hoof, and a long tail, which he carried rather genteelly tucked under his arm, further increased his astonishment. The stranger, is this Halloween or what? The stranger immediately opened his message, mentioned Jack's exclusion from heaven, and spoke of his infernal master's anxiety to see him speedily at his own hot home. When Jack heard these awful tidings, he repressed every symptom of alarm and started to his feet and bid the stranger welcome. I hope, he continued, your honor won't be above sitting in the elbow chair and tasting a drop of poteen this cold evening while I put on my Sunday clothes. The demon complied. There, said the host, is a real drop of the native. After drinking, the demon replied, come, the road is long, we must away. I bet he looked like a dark rider, don't you think? One of those. Anyway. So, saying, he motioned to leave his seat, but found himself immovably fixed therein, while the guileful mortal set his flail to work on the captive enemy. Vain every entreaty for mercy. It was only when Jack was exhausted that he consented to liberate the miserable being, on his solemn oath that he would never more visit this upper world on a similar errand. Satan has more than one courier to do his errands. A second messenger, provided with the necessary instruction for shunning the fatal chair and flail, was dispatched to fetch the doomed mortal, who was ruminating the next day on the adventures of the preceding evening, when the latch was raised and a stranger cautiously entered. When he explained his business, Jack requested that he would be seated and expressed his willingness to depart when he had put a stitch or two in his old brogue. The courier, too cautious, declined to sit, but Jack took the chair and pulled off his broken shoe and requested the demon to hand him an awl with from the small box. The infernal visitant obeyed, but found that he could neither withdraw his hand nor remove the box from the wall. He cast a glance of dismay at his mortal antagonist, who sprung to the flail, and bestowed such discipline as forced the present visitor to submit to the same conditions for his release that his brother devil had done. It is said that his sable majesty was greatly surprised at the discomfiture of his two trusty messengers, and like a skillful general, he resolved to go in person and explore the enemy's camp. He ascended from the nether world through Mangerton Mountain near Killarney, where that barren and bottomless pool called the Hole of Hell now filled up the funnel which formed his upward passage. He looked around from the lofty height into the far country, and with the sagacity of a vulture in quest of his prey, directed his course to Jack's habitation. Aware of Jack's wiles, he rapped at the door, and in a voice of thunder bid the miserable mortal come forth. I will go whithersoever your lordship commands me, he answered, awed by the threatening voice and formidable manner of his summoner. But the road is slippery, and you will permit me to fetch my cane. Besides, I would wish to kiss my wife and little ones before I go. The fiend was inexorable, and urged the wretched being on before him. If I walk without the support of a stick, he resumed, hobbling on before his captor, I shall speedily break my bones, and if there are no cart or carmen on the road to hell, how would your lordship wish to fetch my carcass on your princely shoulders? Oh, that even a bough from yonder sycamore to support my old limbs. To stay his murmuring and furnish the desired support, Satan laid hold of a fair branch of the tree, but immediately found he was unable either to break the bough or quit his hold. And Jack, with a yell of joy, returned to fetch his favorite flail. In the words of the legend, whoever would come from the remote ends of the earth to hear the most dreadful howlings occasioned by the most dreadful castigation would have had ample gratification. Jack broke his 3 best flails on the occasion. He continued his toil till the going down of the sun, whereon his promising neither to seek Jack on earth or to permit his entrance into hell, the arch-fiend was released, and the fortunate man retired to rest, more fatigued from that day's thrashing than he had ever been before. Our story draws to a close. Jack, with all his skill, could not baffle the assault of death. He paid the debt of nature, but when his soul was dismissed to its final residence, the porter at the gate of the infernal regions stoutly denied him admittance. The fiends turned pale with affright, and even Satan himself fled within the lower depths to hide his head from the dreaded enemy. Then, because he was unfit for heaven, and that hell refused to take him, he was decreed to walk the earth with a lantern to light him on his nightly way till the day of judgment. Such, reader, is the legend relative to Jack-O the Lantern, commonly believed by the peasantry in many districts of Ireland. And there it is, the story of Jack-O the Lantern.
So in this one, somebody was discussing it, and there were kind of 2 variations of what you might take away from it and why you might have like a jack-o'-lantern, a carved jack-o'-lantern. And one was that it was like, that it was to ward him away while he wanders. And the other one, which I liked better, was that it was to give him a very temporary home.
Yeah.
But
someplace to stay.
They weren't sure when they were discussing it. They did not know. Like, it's a little too foggy to know which one.
Yeah, and it doesn't, it kind of doesn't connect, right?
No.
In some ways, it's like, is that supposed to be his light in there? Is it just a name that connects? And,
yeah, it's like the carving the vegetables seems very ancient. So
yeah.
I'd love to kind of see where and if they tie together, but I haven't figured it out yet. But I did love the story. It was very dramatic.
All right. So very, in the past I've kind of worked through and found some, I haven't found a lot, but I think there's more to digging on that topic in the 18th century. On one hand, it's the age of enlightenment, right? And we're kind of putting those superstitions behind you. But even then, some of these superstitions are probably talked about just to make fun of people, right? So, the scientific minded are going to be bringing them up to say, aren't those superstitious people silly? And then the superstitious people are like, no, I saw this thing.
So I do have one super chat here. Okay. I'm sorry, I gotta get to the right page. Okay, so this is from Chickston. Boo, seems people were afraid of a lot of real things like death and murder. What were some imaginary things they feared that kept the kids awake?
Yeah.
And really, a lot of the stuff that we would run across in scary stories, it's not frivolous. They are about death and murder.
Right.
Do you remember running across any that you would think would be a little more lighthearted?
No, not yet. That doesn't mean it's there. It isn't there. Again, with I've been even kind of flabbergasted. I've been doing a lot of research in the past 6 weeks or so, and there's always more there than meets the eye, right? I've literally been doing this 40 years. And I'm always surprised when I find new things, and it's like, wow, I had no idea. So there's always a lot to learn, and so many different avenues to go down. So I'm excited for some special pieces that we've been working on that are going to be in mid-November. Some special soldiery pieces, so we're working on content specifically for the 250th. And there's probably going to be some more of that coming down the road. Ryan's going to be doing some more cooking, but I think I'm going to kind of stay in Soldier Land for a while and kind of stay with that. What is coming up this? There's a good one on Sunday. I think it's a Ryan cooking one.
What's previewing? Pork cutlets that Ryan did?
Yeah. There you go. So lots of fun stuff in the hopper. Again, if you're interested, and obviously I know it's like there are probably people out there. It's like, John, I have 14 Nutmeg Tavern mugs. That's okay. Now you can get a creamer. No. And of course, you need a winter T-shirt that's long sleeved. So that's good. Anyway. I want to thank everyone for your amazing support. Thank you for your help on this one today. I'm Lauren, and thank you, Ivy, for being in the chat. I do plan on trying to get Ryan in here for some more live streams, so you'll probably see him sometime soon. We'll probably be talking about coffee all day long. Anyway, I want to thank all you wonderful supporters supporting us in Super Chat and Patreon and Townsend's Plus and the merch and everything else. All those things help us continue to make videos and be encouraged by them. It's not just do we have the the stuff, but it's also do we know people are out there and they actually care, and that is one of the things that keeps us going. So thank you so much for your kind care of us in your comment section and everything else. Is there anything else I need to do? I hope you have a tremendous weekend, and I want to thank you for watching on this Halloween Eve.